Some of you who watched my live stream last night noticed that I came down with a cough and sneezing, and later on runny nose and a little bit of fever. So done. Now, in my particular case, it is a little bit more worrisome because my girlfriend works at the hospital. And at that hospital, there is a nurse who has a husband which last week came from Italy with the sniffles. And in the nurse's infinite wisdom, she decides not to tell anyone and go to work as if nothing happened. And then she starts showing the symptoms of the sniffles. And I understand that the university professor in charge of that hospital said some mean things towards her. A couple of slurs might have been mentioned of xenophobic and sexist nature. Now, for the last 4 days, as I understand, that nurse didn't come to the hospital again. She's not answering her phone calls. And I assumed, because, I'm the type of person that thinks that the situation should be handled by the book, that an epidemiological investigation might have been created. However, I have to remind myself that this is Eastern Europe, and it turns out that the nurse is a very good friend with the old lady that is supposed to pull the signal for the epidemiological investigation, and she chose not to, because if you lie about these things, you might pay a fine. You might get fired. So she was pretending, well, nothing to see here. So, my girlfriend came into contact with this nurse. And since me and my girlfriend live together, I suppose sharing is caring. So there's that. Now, I guess I have the Schrodinger's illness. My girlfriend is fine. And I decided to make this video because I assume there's a lot of people in my situation that do not know what to do and they want to know when to panic. And the answer is don't panic. Seriously, it doesn't help your immune system. You want a strong immune system, so do not panic. Just try to stay calm. Play some video games, jerk off, do whatever you can do in order to maintain your zen during this difficult period. Now, if you can prove that you came into contact with a person that has it, then you should go to the hospital and declare it. Unfortunately, I can't prove it, because no epidemiological investigation, no patient. And in Romania, they only test people that have either been confirmed to come into contact with a person that has it, or comes from one of the hot zones from outside the country. This is not because we don't have testing kits, as I understand it. It's because we are understaffed. It's because most of the doctors here, in fact, all of my colleagues at the university, if I think about it, have already left the country because it's a lot more profitable to work in Germany for a better wage than to work here. So there is a severe lack in manpower during this difficult time. And I believe the number of reported cases are going to be very low, why Romania is actually at the bottom. We don't know how many cases there are. I understand around 30,000 people from Italy have come back into the country. So, but yeah, so now, okay. What do you do in my situation? The first thing you should do is to try to quarantine yourself. Hopefully, there's nothing bad. But in the unlikely event that there is, you should try to avoid giving it to other people. So what this means is that I'm not going to leave my house unless absolutely necessary. And I'm also not going to invite any more people in. For the next period of time, no one is allowed in here. The second thing is, like, when do you get to worry? Like, when should I go to the hospital? The answer is if you have shortness of breath, or if you get a temperature, let's say above 37.5 degrees Celsius, then you should call your family doctor. Do not call the emergency unit unless you have shortness of breath. But if you just have like a high fever, try to work within the system as to not make the job more complicated for the people at the hospital, right? Like, do not try to give them more work than they have to. I am willing to bet that in more civilized countries where people can get tested based on request, you're going to have so many people that are fine and they just go there to test it just to make sure. Don't be that guy. Seriously, like, there are people that legitimately need the test, and if you just go there and basically clunk up the system, you're hurting other people. you wouldn't want to be in that position where you definitely need to get a result as soon as possible, but you can't get it because other people are clunking up the system. So try to avoid doing that. Okay, what you should do is to call your family doctor if you just see like you have the symptoms and it's like 37.5 degrees or 38. But if it's really bad, like let's say you get 39 degrees temperature or shortness of breath, then you call the ambulance. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Like drink lots of fluids, treat it as any normal disease. I feel fine right now. I don't feel really bad. It's just that the story with with what happened to my girlfriend's hospital is a little bit concerning. And it's concerning not only because it involves me, it's concerning because it involves the system. Like I hope that is a rarity. That doesn't happen in any other hospitals. And the people that are in charge are supposed to do their job. Like if you know that a person didn't declare it, start the epidemiological investigation. Do not. Right. So regarding the flu, what I understand, and this is my understanding, there are several strains you can get, and there is this saying in the medical field, there are no diseases, there are only patients. And in the most overwhelming case, if you get this, you're going to have mild symptoms. And most of the people that have mild symptoms probably don't even get declared. Because if you just have like a runny nose, a cough, and a low fever, and then it passes, you're not going to be tested, you're not going to be put in a statistic, no one is going to know about you. So the only people that do get tested are usually the serious cases that end up in hospital because they can't breathe anymore and they need to be intubated. So if you have it, it's a roll of the dice. And usually, from what I understand, the most amount of people, they end up staying home. But understand this, just because you have mild symptoms doesn't mean that if you don't give it to someone else, that person is going to also have mild symptoms. Like that person can be placed in an intensive care unit just because you give it to them. And you can have just a normal cough, you can have just like some runny nose, and you go out, you give it to someone else, and now that person can be... So just, like try to be as responsible as possible in the hopes that other people are also going to be as responsible as possible. Because again, you don't want this done to you, you don't want this done to your mother, to your grandfather, you don't want someone else to cough on a family member and then go like, so just behave the same way you would want other people to behave. And also try not to panic, because it really doesn't help at all. It doesn't help you. Right? Like it's outside of your control. Like what exactly can I do more than I am doing right now? Nothing. So just remain calm and try to keep in shape. That's another important thing. Don't be a fat guy like me. Don't be obese. Try to get rid of the extra weight. Unfortunately, I can't do that anymore because everything is closed. Romania is under a state of emergency, so people are advised to stay in their houses. Perfect. I'm staying in my house. Other than that, from what I saw, I think like Sweden decided to stop reporting cases. Yikes. Boris Johnson said most of the people are going to get affected, like everyone is going, and I think Merkel also said something similar, which is true. But hopefully, most people who get affected just have the sniffles. Again, it's the severe cases that are going to be a problem, and the number of the severe cases are quite high in Italy right now, which means that it's not just the people that get it that are going to have a problem. Imagine if one of your family members has a stroke and they need to use the intensive care unit to save their life. Well, tough shit. The intensive care unit is full. So you're going to see number of people dying from other issues that aren't related to the disease at all, just because the hospitals are filled to the brim and they don't have any room for other people, which seems to be happening in Italy, and Spain seems to also be catching up. So Italy is a really unfortunate situation. I understand that instead of taking the preventive measures, they went on with a couple of big events. I understand one of them might have been the fashion show at Milano or something like that. And because of these mass events, people got sick. My God, there was this person in Britain, I forgot his name, Jesus, a blue checkmark saying that, there's no need to stop sporting events. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because staying at home is how you get other people sick, by spreading the contagion between you, yourself, and your name. Yeah, absolutely. No. If in this time of year, if you live in one of these countries that you know are problematic, I constantly have to find words not to upset the YouTube algorithm. So excuse me if I'm like, do stay in house unless you absolutely need to, right? So avoid going into crowded areas, avoid taking the public transportation if you can avoid it. Just bike, walk, jog, do these things. Keep you in health. So yeah, to all my listeners, I wish them great health, both in body and in spirit, and purchase lubrifiant, because the economy is going to give us all a really good ass ramming after all of this is over. So take care.